No blame, no victimhood. The Stoic IronMind Manifesto. Who are you blaming right now without even realizing it? The system, your past, your parents, the economy, trauma, timing, people who had advantages you didn't, someone else's mistake, someone else's cruelty, someone else's ignorance. Blame feels honest, it feels intelligent, it feels justified, and that is precisely why it is dangerous. The modern mind has been trained to explain pain instead of mastering it. Every explanation that points outward offers immediate relief. It calms the nervous system. It reduces inner tension. It tells you that what you feel makes sense. And in that moment, something far more important is lost: authority. Marcus Aurelius warned that the greatest threat to a human being is not misfortune, but the habit of assigning power to what lies outside the self. Epictetus was even more direct. If you blame anything beyond your own judgments, you have already accepted slavery, not physical slavery, psychological slavery. Blame is not neutral, it is a transaction. You trade responsibility for comfort. You trade authorship for explanation. You trade growth for emotional relief. And the mind accepts the deal because it feels humane. Victimhood is not weakness because it is false. It is weakness because it is effective. It works. It removes pressure. It suspends accountability. It creates a moral narrative where suffering is proof of righteousness and stagnation is excused as injustice. Nietzsche saw this clearly. Resentment, when left unchecked, transforms into a worldview, a way of interpreting reality that protects the ego while quietly poisoning strength. Jung saw the same mechanism from another angle. What you refuse to integrate, you project. Blame becomes projection. Projection becomes identity. The Stoic Iron Mind rejects this entire structure, not because life is fair, not because suffering is optional, but because power only exists where responsibility is taken without negotiation. This is not about denying circumstances. It is about refusing to let circumstances command your inner posture. Viktor Frankl proved this in the most extreme conditions imaginable. Meaning does not emerge when suffering disappears. Meaning emerges when responsibility is chosen in spite of suffering. The question this video asks is not whether you have been wronged. Many people have. The question is simpler and far more uncomfortable. What part of your current weakness is being protected by blame? Because the moment you identify as a victim, you stop training your capacity to respond. You wait, you explain, you analyze, you justify. And slowly, without noticing, your life becomes a reaction to forces you claim to oppose. This manifesto does not offer compassion first, it offers clarity first. Compassion without responsibility breeds dependency. Clarity without blame restores command. If you stay, you will be asked to abandon an identity that once kept you safe. If you leave, you will leave with the same explanations you arrived with. The Stoic Iron Mind begins here, where excuses end, where blame dissolves, where victimhood is no longer rewarded. Blame is not a conclusion. It is an exit from discomfort, an exit from uncertainty, an exit from responsibility that feels too heavy to carry. The mind does not choose blame because it is accurate. It chooses blame because it regulates emotion. The moment responsibility turns inward, tension rises. The nervous system reacts. Identity feels threatened. Blame interrupts that process. It redirects pressure outward and restores temporary calm. This is why blaming feels rational even when it destroys progress. Modern psychology confirms this pattern. When discomfort emerges, the mind searches for causality that preserves self-image. Jung described this as projection, the relocation of inner conflict onto external objects. What cannot be tolerated internally is framed as external injustice. The ego survives. Growth is postponed. Stoicism sees this not as moral failure, but as strategic error. Epictetus taught that you always have two options. You can examine your judgments, or you can defend them. The moment you defend, learning stops. Blame is defense disguised as explanation. This is why blame is addictive. It creates a closed system. The story explains itself. The cause is external. The outcome is inevitable. The self remains innocent. No adjustment is required. No discipline is demanded. The mind feels resolved while life remains unchanged. Fromm warned that modern individuals often confuse explanation with freedom. Understanding why you suffer does not liberate you if the understanding removes agency. Insight without responsibility becomes intellectual sedation. You know more. You change less. Marcus Aurelius disciplined himself against this tendency daily. He did not deny obstacles. He refused to let obstacles dictate his inner posture. When blame arises, the Stoic asks a different question. Not who caused this, but what is required of me now. This question shifts the entire internal hierarchy. Blame freezes behavior. Responsibility mobilizes it. Blame waits for conditions to improve. Responsibility adapts to conditions as they are. One posture preserves comfort. The other builds capacity. Nietzsche warned that when individuals cannot act, they moralize. They create narratives of injustice to justify inaction. Resentment grows where power is untrained. Blame becomes a substitute for strength. It offers meaning without effort, identity without discipline. The Stoic iron mind does not eliminate emotion. It eliminates excuse. Emotion is allowed to rise. Pain is allowed to exist. But interpretation is disciplined. The mind does not ask what went wrong. It asks what can still be governed. This distinction is everything, because the moment you stop blaming, you feel exposed. There is no shield, no narrative buffer, no moral camouflage. Only your capacity and its limits. This exposure is uncomfortable. It is also honest. Most people never pass this point. They return to explanation, to analysis, to stories that preserve innocence. The Stoic stays. He allows discomfort to instruct him. He lets tension sharpen awareness instead of numbing it. Blame is an escape hatch. Responsibility is a forge. One preserves the self as it is, the other transforms it. Victimhood survives because it feels virtuous. It does not present itself as weakness. It presents itself as awareness, sensitivity, intelligence, even justice. This is why it is so difficult to abandon. You are not merely letting go of an excuse. You are letting go of a moral identity that has been rewarded. The victim identity offers 3 psychological benefits: belonging, protection, and innocence. Belonging comes from shared grievance. Protection comes from lowered expectation. Innocence comes from the removal of responsibility. Together, they form a powerful psychological shelter. Nietzsche warned that when strength is absent, morality is redefined to favor the powerless posture. Resentment does not announce itself as envy or fear. It announces itself as ethics. The victim does not say, "I cannot act," or he says, "I should not have to." This shift preserves self-respect while avoiding effort. Modern psychology confirms the trap. When identity becomes fused with suffering, improvement threatens the self. Healing feels like betrayal. Growth feels like abandonment of the group. Jung observed that people unconsciously cling to pain because it provides structure. Without it, the self feels undefined. Stoicism breaks this attachment without cruelty. It does not deny harm. It denies the idea that harm defines you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that character is not shaped by what happens, but by how one responds. The victim identity rejects this principle. It treats response as secondary and explanation as primary. Victimhood also creates a subtle hierarchy. Those who suffer more are granted moral authority. Those who overcome are viewed with suspicion. Strength becomes offensive. Discipline is reframed as privilege. Responsibility is labeled insensitivity. This inversion protects stagnation while appearing compassionate. Pascal warned that humans are remarkably skilled at lying to themselves when the lie preserves comfort. The victim narrative is one of the most refined lies available. It tells you that your lack of progress is evidence of injustice, not misalignment. That your paralysis is proof of awareness, not avoidance. The Stoic iron mind refuses this trade. Not because it lacks empathy, but because empathy without agency degrades the soul. Fromm argued that true humanism demands responsibility. Without it, compassion becomes infantilization. The victim identity collapses when asked one question: what can I still govern? This question is intolerable to a mind invested in blame. It removes the moral shield. It demands movement. It demands risk. It demands the possibility of failure without excuse. This is why victimhood feels safe. Safety is the absence of demand. Stoicism introduces demand as a form of respect. It assumes capacity. It assumes agency. It assumes that the individual is not fragile by nature, only undertrained. To abandon the victim identity is not to deny pain. It is to deny pain the right to rule your future. It is to step out of moral performance and into existential responsibility. Most people resist this step fiercely. They mistake it for cruelty. It is not. It is the restoration of dignity. In the next chapter, we will confront the Stoic principle that most unsettles the modern mind: responsibility without any promise of fairness. The modern mind secretly believes that responsibility should come with compensation, that effort should be met with reward, that pain should justify relief. This belief is rarely spoken, but it governs expectation, and when expectation is violated, blame returns. Stoic philosophy dismantles this illusion at its core. Marcus Aurelius did not assume fairness, he assumed duty. Epictetus went further. He removed fairness from the equation entirely. You are responsible for your judgments, full stop. Whether the world cooperates is irrelevant. This is the point where most people withdraw. Responsibility without fairness feels cruel, it feels imbalanced, it feels unjust. But this reaction exposes a deeper dependency. The mind is not resisting responsibility, it is resisting responsibility without validation. Nietzsche warned that when individuals cannot reconcile effort with outcome, they invent moral explanations to protect themselves. They blame systems, they blame fate, they blame others. Fairness becomes the currency demanded in exchange for effort. When it is not paid, resentment grows. Stoicism refuses this negotiation. It treats responsibility as non-conditional, not because the world is good, but because the self must remain sovereign. Fairness is external, sovereignty is internal. Confusing the two guarantees frustration. Viktor Frankl observed that even in conditions stripped of justice, choice remained intact. This was not optimism, it was clarity. When fairness disappears, responsibility does not. Only comfort disappears. The Stoic iron mind accepts this trade consciously. Modern psychology supports this position. Behavioral patterns stabilize when agency is internalized. When agency is externalized, behavior becomes reactive. Blame thrives in reactive systems. Responsibility creates structure. Structure enables endurance. Seneca warned that misfortune tests character, but expectation reveals weakness. The expectation of fairness is the most fragile expectation of all. It collapses under pressure and leaves the mind exposed. Stoic discipline removes this expectation before it becomes dependency. Responsibility without fairness feels heavy at first. There is no one to appeal to, no one to accuse, no moral refuge, only conduct remains. This exposure is what most people mistake for cruelty. In reality, It is liberation. When fairness is no longer required, effort becomes clean. Action is no longer conditional. Discipline is no longer transactional. You act because alignment demands it, not because reward is promised. This is why the Stoic iron mind appears unyielding. It does not ask whether effort will be recognized. It asks whether effort is required. That question simplifies life brutally. Once fairness is removed, blame loses oxygen. There is nothing left to argue with. The mind stops waiting. It starts adjusting. Discipline collapses long before action stops. It collapses at the level of permission. Blame provides that permission. It whispers that consistency can wait, that effort is unreasonable under current conditions, that alignment is optional until circumstances improve. This is how blame destroys discipline without ever appearing as laziness. When the mind assigns causality outward, it delays command inward. Every justification creates a pause. Every pause weakens momentum. Over time, discipline becomes conditional. It appears only when motivation is high, when conditions are favorable, when effort feels deserved. Stoicism rejects this entirely. Epictetus made it clear that training the mind is not an emotional process. It is a structural one. Discipline is not built on inspiration. It is built on repetition under resistance. Blame interferes with this process by reframing resistance as unfairness rather than feedback. Modern behavioral psychology confirms this pattern. Habits form when action is decoupled from mood and circumstance. Blame reattaches action to external validation. It trains the brain to wait. Waiting feels reasonable. Waiting feels patient. Waiting feels intelligent, and it quietly erodes consistency. Marcus Aurelius disciplined himself against this drift by treating each day as a test of character, not a referendum on fairness. He did not negotiate effort based on conditions. He adjusted method, not commitment. Blame prevents this adjustment by turning obstacles into excuses rather than data. Nietzsche warned that weakness does not announce itself as collapse. It announces itself as explanation. The mind that explains why discipline failed today will explain why it fails tomorrow. Over time, explanation becomes identity. I am disciplined, but becomes the dominant narrative. The Stoic iron mind removes the but, not through force, through clarity. Discipline requires friction. Friction exposes limits. Blame hides them. When friction is blamed, it is avoided. When friction is studied, it becomes training. The Stoic does not seek comfort in consistency. He seeks refinement. Fromm argued that modern individuals confuse freedom with absence of obligation. Stoicism redefines freedom as self-command. Discipline is not restriction, it is sovereignty. Blame erodes sovereignty by placing command outside the self. This is why discipline feels impossible for so many people. It is not because they lack willpower, it is because they have trained themselves to wait for conditions to justify action. Blame has taught them that effort must be earned. The Stoic iron mind understands a harsher truth. Effort is owed, not to the world, to the self you claim to respect. Once blame is removed, discipline stabilizes. Action becomes quieter, less dramatic, more reliable. Progress accelerates not because effort increases, but because negotiation ends. The human mind is uncomfortable with pain that has no enemy. When suffering appears, it instinctively searches for a culprit, someone to accuse, something to fight, a narrative that transforms discomfort into injustice. This search feels natural. It is also destructive. Pain does not require a villain to exist. But the ego requires one to feel innocent. Stoic philosophy removes this illusion early. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that pain is a sensation, not a verdict. Epictetus went further. Events are neutral. Only judgments disturb the soul. When pain is framed as injustice, the mind stops adapting and starts protesting. Modern psychology explains why this happens. The brain seeks coherence. Random discomfort threatens identity. A villain restores order. Jung observed that when responsibility feels overwhelming, the psyche externalizes conflict. Pain becomes someone else's fault. Relief follows. Growth does not. Schopenhauer understood suffering as an inherent condition of existence, not a moral error. The Stoic iron mind accepts this without bitterness, not because suffering is noble, but because resistance to reality multiplies pain. When you demand a villain, you delay adaptation. When you accept pain as data, you regain movement. The victim mindset insists that pain must be justified before action is taken. Stoicism rejects this demand. Pain does not require permission to exist. It requires interpretation. The wrong interpretation produces paralysis. The right one produces adjustment. Nietzsche warned that when individuals cannot tolerate suffering without explanation, they invent meaning that protects their ego. This meaning often takes the form of grievance. Grievance feels purposeful. It gives pain a story, but the story consumes energy that could be used to strengthen capacity. Viktor Frankl demonstrated a different path. Meaning is not found by accusing fate. It is constructed through response. Pain becomes bearable when it is integrated into a larger orientation, not when it is dramatized. The Stoic iron mind does not ask who caused the pain. He asks what the pain demands of his character. This question is uncomfortable because it offers no escape. It strips away the luxury of resentment. It leaves only conduct. When pain is accepted without a villain, clarity returns. Emotion settles, action resumes. The mind stops arguing with reality and starts engaging with it. This shift is subtle. It is also decisive. Most people remain trapped here. They circle pain endlessly, demanding justice before movement. Stoicism offers a harder path. Move first. Adjust through action. Let meaning follow discipline, not the other way around. Pain without a villain feels lonely. It removes moral theater. It removes sympathy. It removes explanation. What remains is agency. And agency is the only thing that transforms suffering into strength. A reactive mind believes it is responding to life. In reality, it is being managed by it. Reaction feels active, but it is passive at the structural level. Emotion rises, thought follows, action trails behind. By the time behavior occurs, the moment has already dictated the terms. Stoicism reverses this hierarchy. Epictetus was uncompromising on this point. You are not disturbed by events. You are disturbed by the sequence in which you allow events to move through you. When emotion leads, judgment collapses. When judgment collapses, behavior becomes inconsistent. Reaction replaces command. Modern psychology describes the same pattern using different language. Automatic responses dominate when awareness is weak. Habits form around emotional relief, not strategic alignment. Blame reinforces this automation. It trains the mind to justify reactions instead of examining them. The Stoic iron mind interrupts this sequence deliberately. Thought precedes emotion. Principle precedes impulse. Action is chosen, not triggered. This does not suppress feeling. It delays obedience. The difference is subtle and absolute. Marcus Aurelius disciplined himself to pause internally even when pressure was external. This pause is not hesitation. It is command asserting itself. In that pause, interpretation is chosen, meaning is assigned, emotion is recalibrated, action becomes aligned. Jung warned that an unconscious life is not free, it is possessed. Reaction is possession by circumstance. Command is liberation through awareness. Stoicism trains awareness not as introspection, but as governance. Fromm described maturity as the ability to act without compulsive reassurance. The reactive mind seeks immediate validation. The commanding mind seeks coherence. validation fluctuates, coherence compounds. When blame is removed, this transition becomes possible. Blame demands reaction. Responsibility allows delay. Delay creates space. Space restores choice. This chain is the foundation of emotional regulation, discipline, and mental toughness. The Stoic iron mind does not wait to feel ready. He waits to see clearly. Readiness is emotional, clarity is structural. When clarity is present, action does not depend on mood. It depends on principle. This is why Stoic command appears calm even under pressure. Calm is not absence of intensity. It is intensity under direction. Emotion still rises. Stress still appears, but they do not seize the controls. Reaction creates exhaustion. Command creates endurance. Reaction consumes energy through repetition. Command conserves energy through alignment. Over time, the difference becomes visible in behavior, decisions, and results. Most people believe control means force. Stoicism teaches that control means order. When the internal order is correct, effort decreases while effectiveness increases. The cost of victimhood is rarely paid immediately. That is why it persists. It charges interest slowly, silently, over time. You do not lose everything at once. You lose direction first, then clarity, then momentum. Only later do you notice that your life has narrowed. The victim mindset convinces you that waiting is wisdom, that caution is maturity, that restraint is depth. But what is actually happening is erosion. Capacity atrophies when it is not exercised. Responsibility weakens when it is deferred. Identity shrinks around grievance. Kierkegaard warned that the most dangerous despair is the one that does not feel like despair. It feels reasonable, justified, even ethical. The victim identity fits this description perfectly. It does not scream. It explains. It does not collapse. It stalls. Modern psychology shows that prolonged externalization of control reduces initiative. When outcomes are consistently attributed to forces outside the self, the nervous system adapts by lowering effort. Why strain if effort is irrelevant? Why commit if circumstances decide? This adaptation feels protective. It is actually resignation. Nietzsche understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. He warned that individuals who do not practice power gradually lose the capacity for it, not because they are oppressed, but because they stop choosing themselves. Strength unused becomes resentment. Resentment becomes worldview. The Stoic iron mind refuses this decay, not through optimism, but through confrontation. He asks what he is sacrificing every time he chooses explanation over action. What future is being postponed? What version of the self is being quietly abandoned? Victimhood also distorts time. The past becomes an anchor. The future becomes conditional. Progress is always delayed until something is resolved, acknowledged, corrected. Life becomes a waiting room where the door never opens. Frankl observed that those who survive extreme conditions do not do so by explaining their suffering, but by orienting themselves toward responsibility within it. Meaning does not erase pain, it prevents disintegration. The longer victimhood remains unchallenged, the harder it becomes to leave, not because escape is impossible, but because identity has formed around it. Leaving feels like betrayal of one's own story. The Stoic understands this pain. He walks through it anyway. The cost of staying a victim is not moral failure, it is existential loss. Loss of agency, loss of authorship, loss of the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can respond, regardless of circumstance. This is the final pressure point. Stay comfortable and constrained, or step into responsibility and risk discomfort. There is no neutral ground. This is the line where explanation ends and authorship begins. The Stoic iron mind does not ask to be understood. It asks to be lived. It does not negotiate with circumstance. It does not appeal to fairness. It does not wait for permission to act. It assumes responsibility because responsibility is the only place where power exists. No blame means no external enemy is needed to justify stagnation. No victimhood means suffering is not turned into identity. Together, they form a posture that is rare, uncomfortable, and decisive. A posture where the self is not protected by narrative, but strengthened by discipline. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire by first governing himself, not through denial of hardship, but through mastery of judgment. Epictetus taught that freedom begins the moment excuses are no longer entertained. Viktor Frankl showed that even when everything is taken, responsibility over meaning remains untouched. The Stoic iron mind stands on these truths without sentimentality. It does not promise happiness, it promises coherence. When thought, emotion, and action align, the mind stabilizes. When the mind stabilizes, endurance replaces anxiety. When endurance is present, life loses its power to fragment you. This manifesto rejects moral theater. There is no reward for suffering, no virtue in complaint, no dignity in paralysis. There is only the quiet authority that comes from responding well again and again, regardless of circumstance. Nietzsche warned that those who avoid responsibility eventually resent those who embrace it. Stoicism answers this resentment without hostility. It does not seek dominance over others, it seeks sovereignty over the self. The Stoic iron mind does not harden the heart, it sharpens perception. Compassion remains, but it is no longer an excuse. Understanding remains, but it no longer delays action. Pain remains, but it no longer dictates identity. This is not self-improvement. It is self-command, not motivation. Orientation, not reaction. Response. No blame means nothing is outsourced. No victimhood means nothing is surrendered. From this posture, life is no longer something that happens to you. It becomes something you face, deliberately, repeatedly, without illusion. This is the Stoic IronMind Manifesto. Clarity over comfort, responsibility over relief, command over chaos. What you do next will reveal whether this was insight or confrontation, and the Stoic iron mind already knows the difference. The Stoic iron mind speaks with clarity, not cruelty. It cuts illusions, not people.